All right, so doing the front wheel bearing replacement, it's pretty much as the rear wheel. Tools you're gonna need are a hammer, mallet, a flathead screwdriver, some type of prying tool. Get a socket that's about the same size as the bearing to help you set the new one. Got some all-purpose grease, and I got a torch. And you're also gonna need some type of punch to get the bearing out. And here's what it looks like. On the rotor side right here, you have a dust seal over the bearing. But then on the other side, you can just see the bearing. This is where the speedometer fits on. First thing I'm gonna do is take off the dust seal. All you gotta do is get your screwdriver up underneath and then work it out. Get a big screwdriver with some leverage. There we go. There's the dust seal. You might can kind of see it's set down in there pretty good. We're gonna set this one first before the other bearing, and you'll see why in a second. There's a spacer in the middle. So what I was talking about with the spacer, there's one on the inside there. It has barely any wiggle room, but it is free, just barely, between this bearing and the other bearing. All right, so this is where you're gonna need your punch, or flathead screwdriver will also work. We're gonna knock out the other bearing. It's on the other side there. Basically just slide it in, get that spacer. Spacer's a tube in the middle, so you want that to be adjusted out so that you can catch the lip of the bearing on the other side. But before we do that and punch it out, we're gonna heat up the other side with a torch. You can also use a heat gun for this. Came right out. All right, it is pretty hot, but there's the old bearing, and here is the spacer that I was talking about. And now we're just gonna do the exact opposite. You're gonna heat up this side and knock it from the other side. And like I said, you can use a socket to either drive or remove a bearing, and this one right here fits perfectly down, so I'm gonna use this instead of the punch. All right, now for reinstall, I just pulled this thing out of the freezer. That'll shrink it up a little bit. So I'm gonna set it off to the side. People say, yeah, you need to wipe off the condensation and everything first, so I'll do that before I put it in. But this is in the freezer. It's off to the side. I'm gonna heat this up, put a little grease on the inside first, and then we're gonna drop the new one in, pound it in, and we'll be good to go. Alright, so after getting that in, I'd say use a mallet and just flat hits first, and then once you get it down level with the surface, start using your socket. But if you can see down there, not very well, but it is flush with that inner lip. So this side's good to go. Put on the dust seal. Alright, here's the dust seal. It's a lot easier to work with compared to the bearing. You can pretty much press this in with your fingers. Still coat it up in grease, but then you just kind of work it in. So now flip it over, and we're going to do the same here on this side. I have the other bearing sitting in the freezer. Going to heat it up here. Make sure to grab your spacer and drop it down in there. Grease it up before you do. With the spacer down in there, you can't really tell from the view, but this bearing is not going to seat all the way on that lip. It's going to seat right above this spacer right here. All right, remember this is the one I said we got to be careful on not driving it too far. Still got plenty of play on that spacer. Tap it down a little more. It's really close. All right, and you can't really see it, but it's at a good space right here. So we're good to go.